international students. We met during a welcome event for new students in August 2024. We're from the same country, so we started talking and became friends instantly. He's conventionally attractive, and honestly, I was into him when I saw him. At the time, I was in a relationship. I eventually broke up with my boyfriend around the end of the year because long distance just wasn't working anymore. Matt has been single since we met, and he is attracted to women. Just to clear that up. Okay. Immediately I was going to be like, is he gay? You know, but we cleared that up, so we know. Anyway, we're part of a small friend group of 3 guys, including him, one other girl, and we used to hang out almost every weekend. Dinner, drink, and chill. So it's pretty normal for me or Matt to go to each other's places. One night, this happened around March 2025. Everyone left early, and it was just Matt and me. We kept drinking and talking until like 3 a.m., and since it was too late for him to go home, he crashed at my place. My apartment is super small. It's basically just a bed and a tiny couch, a closet, and a desk. So we ended up sharing the bed. It was super awkward, but nothing happened. He left in the morning, and we never talked about it. I was a bit confused because he didn't even try anything, but at the same time, I felt really safe and respected. Yeah, immediately I would be like, oh, like that's really refreshing. You know, that's wow. I didn't get like woke in the middle of the night while I was sleeping. Like, wow. What I didn't expect was that it wouldn't be the last time. We've had multiple sleepovers since then, either at my place or his, and still nothing happens. Like literally nothing. We just talk, drink, play card games, and sleep. After a few nights like that, I asked if he's ever done this kind of thing with another girl, and he said no, which made it even weirder. Of course, I haven't had these kind of sleepovers with my male friends either, but as I mentioned in the beginning, I am attracted to Matt, and I wouldn't mind if something did happen with him. However, I'm really shy, and I never make the first move. Maybe it's just two really shy people. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he does want you to make the first move. Maybe he's a real gentleman. Wow, so cute out there, I swear. At this point, it feels like we've slipped into this weird brother-sister dynamic. He doesn't even step out when I change my clothes or shower, like it's the most normal thing. So it's just really good friends. Forever when you guys like each other, or maybe somebody else, or maybe it's just not for you, and just like really like a good friend, and you just need to go into it like at first, so you know you don't get your hopes up. I think like it's just like we've been having these sleepovers, and I don't know how would you go about this, and you don't want to make the first move either, and then just get like, and he's like, whoa, no, that's just crushing. That's crushing. Dude, I feel bad for guys sometimes. That's like kind of expected, but oh my goodness. But maybe I would just start by just being a little, I know you're shy, but you know maybe somebody's got to be flirty or something. See if he gives it back, and if he doesn't, I don't know. Shit, I don't know. I don't know how to flirt. I don't really know how to flirt. I don't even know if I'm married, to be honest. I have no idea. Let's just leave comments. I'm so curious. Expecting a post from him tomorrow. Quote, I keep inviting this girl for sleepovers, but we still haven't done anything. I'm confused. Unquote. That's what I think. I think you're both just really shy. Because like for guys, it's not over that much. It's just, I mean, I feel like he wouldn't be doing that if he was into somebody else, unless he's a piece of shit. But then if he's a piece of shit, I feel like he would make a move. You know what I mean? So I feel like he's a gentleman who really likes you, and you both are just really shy. That's my guess. Here is an angle. He's a respectful dude, and he's a guest in your apartment. He does not want to risk making you alone to make you uncomfortable in your own home and maybe risk not being invited back. You probably have to make the first move. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. You kind of just gotta put yourself out there a little bit, and you don't need to do anything like physical. You just like say something. Like, oh my gosh, like your hair is so shiny. I don't know. What? We have an update, so let's read the update. Hey everyone, this was my first ever Reddit post and my first time doing an update too. So sorry if I missed it. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who commented and took the time to give me advice. I expect so many clearly. The general consensus seems to be that I need to stop overthinking and actually talk to him. Yes, queen, yes. So that's what I'm doing. I'm planning to invite him over for dinner at my place later this week, and I'll try to be honest about how I feel and see where it goes from there. I'll update again once that happens. And we have another update. I wanted to give an update because your advice honestly pushed me to do something I would have kept avoiding. On Saturday evening, I texted Matt saying I needed to talk about something. Originally, I wanted to do it in person, but I was like, that's okay. She's all of us, to be honest. So I just went for it and asked him how he felt when we got together. He was confused at first, understandably. So I clarified and told him I enjoyed those moments because I'm actually attracted to him. Wow. Bold, and I love it. Then I asked again. No, I'm scared. I don't want to read. You read next. I don't want to read it. Just kidding. I'll read it. He told me that the first time we slept together, I had recently broken up with my ex, and he didn't want to take advantage of that moment. He's a gentleman. And the other time, he was just trying to be respectful. He's a gentle man. He literally said, I am loyal to you always. And later, because he thought I had something going on with other guys. He didn't know he was the one. Anyway, we agreed the past is a past. I asked how he wants to move forward and if he's ready for something more. He said yes, and that he wants to get to know me in a different way. So I guess finally, and the rest is history. Smiley face. I'm so happy for you guys. You have no idea. You have no idea how happy this stranger of a woman is for you. I'm so happy for you. He waited after he broke up with your boyfriend to give you space, and then he waited even longer because he didn't want to assume, because he's respectful man. That makes me so happy. Wow. Oh, I guess we'll read one more. I guess slam on the asshole for cheating on my wife? Yeah, but maybe not. I don't know what in quotations cheating means. Let's see. So, some background. I, male 35, and my wife, 34, female, have been happily married for 11 years, have a child together, and I'm desperately in love with her. We both practice Christianity and are very devout to our beliefs. Recently, my wife has been quite busy with work at school, and she's finishing up her degree to be a lawyer, and then she has been studying for a bar exam. She has been heavily involved in her studies, studying most weeks for nearly 25 hours on top of her full-time job and interning. My gosh, she's badass, okay? I know this can make me seem a little bit of a bum in comparison to her, but please know I am also working full-time in addition to multiple side hustles. Life is expensive living in Cali. I say all this to help understand the cheating, quote unquote. One day, we were having a busy morning. I was getting my son out the door to school, and she was rushing around to get to work. After my son got in the bus, my wife left for work right after him. I had the morning off. I was feeling a little frisky, so I pulled out my phone and pulled up a spicy video my wife and I made about 7 years ago during intimacy. Oh, okay, so it's your wife. It is your wife. Okay. I'm back on the train tracks right now. Alright, so here I am watching the video and begin to, you know what? The sound then disconnects. Oh my god. Later finding out my wife had come back home to get her phone and it connected to her car. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be funny, but it's kind of, I mean, it's your wife. I then fix the sound so I go back to didn't even care, or maybe he just didn't notice, I guess. As I'm finishing, my wife walks in being furious. She asks me what the heck I was doing and how could I do this to her. I sat there shaking but a little confused, and after her ranting rage, I said I didn't know what the big deal was. She said, you're watching Killer and doing the deed to yourself. Then went off on a short tangent about knowing I wasn't attracted to her anymore. Oh, because it was from 7 years ago, is that what she's saying? I then flipped my phone to her to show her the video I was doing this. Okay, so she didn't know it was her. She then was furious with me still. I said I still find her incredibly attractive and find her even more beautiful now. Actual truth compared to this 7-year-old video. She then insisted I was cheating on her because I was doing back to myself without her. I sat there naked and shocked. Just digging into the phone. Look, it was you. I asked her how I was cheating. She then said because sex is to be a together act. I asked her if she thought, what he did to himself was wrong, and let her know that there have been times during intimacy that act was an act we did. She said she thought I was doing with it. She got more mad and then went to work. So here I sit wondering, am I the asshole? Everybody has different boundaries and all these types of things in relationships. And I mean, you guys have been together for 11 years. I feel like, I don't know how if you've been keeping your time with yourself to move from her for 11 years, but she'd have to know that you were doing something. Maybe. This is like a very personal thing. I can't really say whether you are or you're not, because I don't know if you guys like agreed to something before you got together. The fact that you're watching your wife and it was made in a potential video that you had makes it better, you know. But again, this is like really personal. I'm gonna put myself in her shoes, and you know, she's really busy. She's been working a lot, and you guys haven't been intimate in a while, and maybe she's just feeling that although she's working really hard and doing all this stuff, that maybe she's upset that you wouldn't ask her or ask her maybe like that morning and then before she's not good enough in a way, even though it is her, like you're doing it to yourself. And there's a lot of reasons feel like she's not good enough, or that maybe she's feeling guilty that she is doing something when she shouldn't be guilty at all. And maybe she was just thinking out of emotion because there's a lot going on for her at the moment, and for you, I mean, you just see it as like, oh, here's my feeling, feeling like this, and you're not really thinking it's that for her. She's thinking probably a lot of people do that. I think you just have to have a conversation when she kind of thinks through it. And I know this is obviously in the past, but yeah, just let her simmer and think of all this stuff, and then you headed, not confrontational at all, not like it's a her problem, but just come out of like, hey, this is, and I know you already had this discussion, but just say it again, be like, I want this to be as open as possible, and I don't want you to feel in any way, like, what are you feeling right now? Just really take the time to understand why she feels like that, and that's the only way you can move forward with this, because I don't want to call anybody an asshole in this situation, because it's just so much deeper than that, and so much more personal. I'm curious what the comments are. It's Reddit. They're going to be pretty straight up. Not the asshole. She's nuts. That's not cheating by any reasonable measure. Okay, yeah, let me talk on that. Again, it's so personal, but I don't think it is, personally. In fact, I'd be like, nice. Right? Look, my husband has a higher libido than I do. I'm treating my interest as equivalent to my wife's physical absence here, because either way, we are putting out on demand. I feel like it's unreasonable for me to be bothered taking matters into his own hands if I'm not going to be involved in the process at the moment. And you know, I mean, he established up there of the Christian faith, and you know, there's different levels to that, and there's different. That's a whole other can of worms. Not that it's a bad thing at all. It's just like some people are more, you know, strict about their intimacy, and some people are more open with it. There's a whole spectrum and stuff. So a lot of people in the comments are saying it's because of that, which maybe, but we don't know for sure. She's not nuts. She's frustrated. She misses your intimacy too. This is kind of what I think. This is kind of what I'm picking up on. But because she's so involved with her own commitments, she probably doesn't know how to express it or even realize that she's needing. I don't think she was even actually pissed. I think she was overwhelmed, and when she saw that, it was just a shock to her system, and she felt inadequate at the moment. This is a way better way of saying it, but that is exactly, that's what she's not making you happy.
you should have taken to the grave.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
Hello everyone, back again with film reviews. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror thriller films from 2019, titled The Line. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with a tour of a dollhouse, where we see several dolls representing each family member. We see a woman named Laura, who is calling her children. She then rushes to fix her eyelashes in the mirror, but out of nowhere, she breaks down in tears. Next, we see Laura driving with her teenage son Aiden, and her small daughter, Mia, who clutches a doll representing her mother. They soon arrive at a house, where the kid's father, Richard, comes out and excitedly greets the family. He then gives the kids some money to buy candy, saying he wants to talk to their mom alone. After the kids leave, Richard takes Laura inside and informs her that they need to finalize the divorce. He then drops a bombshell, revealing he and his girlfriend, Grace, are getting married in September. Laura is shocked by the news, but she forces a smile and says it's fine before leaving the house. Sometime later, we see Laura back in her place, appearing calm as she slowly sips her wine. But then all of a sudden, the scene then cuts to Laura's funeral, where Mia is seen clutching the same doll like her mother, and bawling her eyes out, while her brother tries to comfort her. Even at home, Mia continues to cry, and as a devout Catholic, she fears her mother won't be able to go to heaven since she took her own life. Richard tries his best to console her, but his efforts are in vain, so Aiden lies down beside his sister and holds her hand. The scene then cuts to 6 months later, where the children are now living with their father and are soon preparing to eat. Richard suddenly announces that he wants to spend Christmas with them in the mountains, but with Grace as well. Even worse, he says he will return to the city afterward, and will join them a couple of days later to celebrate Christmas. Aiden erupts in anger, insisting he doesn't want anything to do with the woman he holds responsible for his mother's death. He even calls Grace a psychopath, whom Richard has written in his book. But Richard insists she isn't, and reveals that they are getting married soon, which only enrages Aiden further. draped in purple cloth with tape over their mouths that says sing. Moreover, the recording ends when the person turns toward a mirror and we see that it is 12-year-old Grace. Just then their father shows up and asks what they are doing, and Aiden claims his computer isn't working, so they were looking for help with Mia's school project. Richard then once again tries to convince them to come to the cabin with Grace, saying she is eager to get to know them. The scene then cuts to a few days later, when the kids are seen packing their things and preparing to leave. Shortly after, Grace joins them in the car, and it turns out she has brought her beloved dog as well. She excitedly greets the kids, but they remain cold and uninterested. After a long day of driving, they finally arrive at the family's lodge, isolated deep. While Grace is unpacking her belongings, we see that she has brought Christmas gifts for each of the children and for Richard. Later, they gather around the table for dinner, where Mia quietly prays to the Lord before eating, but this unsettles Grace, and her gaze drifts to a painting of the Virgin Mary on the wall. The sight seems to deeply disturb her, and moments later, blood begins to stream from her nose. The next day, Richard and the kids go ice skating, and Grace tries to accompany them, but she barely manages to keep up. The kids then rudely point out that she is wearing their mother's hat, so Grace apologizes and hands it back to them. Later, Mia begins playing with her doll, but at one point, she drops it onto the ice and panics. As Mia tries to retrieve it, Grace stops her and rushes to grab the doll herself, right when the ice cracks, causing her to plunge into the freezing water. Richard immediately rushes to rescue her, and takes her inside to warm her up. After drinking hot chocolate, Grace goes to her room and takes some pills, but quickly hides her lungs. He tells her he won't return to the city if she isn't feeling well, but Grace assures him she's fine, and it's only for a couple of days. Richard agrees, and then shows her a safe containing a revolver that belonged to Laura's father. He thinks she might need it in an emergency, so he teaches her how to shoot. But it turns out she is already proficient, surprising Richard. Following this, Richard says goodbye to Grace and the kids before heading off to the city. Grace then tries to invite the kids to decorate for Christmas, but they completely ignore her, leaving her no choice but to do it alone. Later, she asks Mia what she wants for Christmas, and the girl says Grace then reveals that she had always wanted a dog as a child, but her father never allowed it. She explains that she gifted herself Grady to heal herself and move on from the painful past. Later on, Grace goes to ask Aiden if he wants any food, but he completely ignores her. She then heads to take a shower, and when she comes out, she suddenly finds a heart drawn on the mirror with the word Mom, and notices Aiden's reflection in the background, but he dashes off. The next morning, Grace wakes up on the floor of her room, feeling very confused. She finds her things in disarray, and soon discovers Mia's doll in her drawer. Later, Mia gets worried because she has lost her doll, so Grace pretends to be crying to search for it. She asks Mia to look under Grady's bed, where the girl finally finds the doll. Upset Grace then retreats to her room and takes her pills once again. Afterwards, Grace asks Aiden if he wants a sandwich, but he ignores it. When she asks again, he rudely says that he can make one himself, so a frustrated Grace says they need to have a conversation. She hopes they can at least talk normally since they're in the house together, but he harshly replies that he doesn't want to talk to her. Grace then confronts him about how he watched her in the shower, but Aiden remains silent. That night, Grace and Mia are watching a movie, when Aiden unexpectedly surprises Grace by offering her a hot chocolate. It seems he is starting to warm up to her, which makes her very happy. Mia begins coughing, saying it's very cold, so Aiden ends up bringing the gas heater to warm things up. Grace notices the strong smell of gas and asks if it's safe to have it inside, but Aiden insists it's fine. Shortly after, Grace falls asleep while watching the movie, and ends up having a nightmare of her father trying to drown her. The next morning, she wakes up from the nightmare, and realizes that her phone is dead. There is no electricity in the lodge, and a snowstorm is raging outside, causing the water tanks to be frozen. Grace wakes Aiden to ask if his phone is working, but he says it's dead. To their surprise, everything in the house is gone, including the Christmas decorations, and even all the food in the fridge. Grace assumes Grace blames the kids for this, and demands her pills back, but Aiden denies having done anything. She then storms into the kids' room to search for her things, only to find that are gone as well. Mia notices that her doll is missing too, and the worst part is that Grady is nowhere to be seen. The three rush outside into the snow and frantically look for Grady, but their efforts are in vain. Upon returning home, they all begin shivering in the cold, and it turns out the generator isn't working. Grace asks where the nearest town is, and Aiden reveals that it's miles away, and impossible to get there safely without a vehicle. A frustrated Grace searches the lodge and finds some canned food, which she eats with the kids. Later, Aiden shares with Grace that he had a strange dream last night, in which the gas started leaking, and they all suffocated. But Grace ignores this, and begins gathering what little food she can find, during which her eyes are drawn to a clock that says January 9th. She is shocked, as it's impossible that so many days have passed since the night before. She then goes outside with the food to search for Grady, but the dog is nowhere to be found. Upon returning home, Grace hears Mia's voice from upstairs, and it seems like she's talking to her father. She quickly asks to see her phone to check if it's working, but the phone is dead, and Mia admits that she was pretending to speak to her father because she misses him. Later, Grace goes to take a bath using some hot water, during which the word repent appears on the mirror. It horrifies her. She then goes to sleep, but begins repeatedly hearing her father's voice saying, "Repent your sins." Just then, Mia arrives in the room, and says she heard a voice outside. Grace goes to investigate with the girl, and soon arrives at a window, where she notices countless covered in the snow outside. Grace then returns to bed and tries to sleep when she begins hearing her father's voice again, telling her to repent. She slips into a trance-like state, grabs her gun, and starts wandering around. Soon, she reaches the kids' room, where she sees Aiden covered in a blue cloth, with his mouth covered with a tape that says sin, just like the cult victim. The next morning, Aiden wakes up to see Grace standing in front of him in a trance-like state and holding a gun. Mia shakes her to wake her, but Grace accidentally hits the door, after which she gains consciousness and gets confused. Later, Grace packs some stuff and tells the kids that they will have to risk walking to the nearest town, because she can't continue without her pills. Aiden can't go out in such terrible weather, so she decides to head out alone. Following this, the poor woman walks alone in a snowstorm, and eventually comes across a strange, cross-shaped building. A faint figure is seen waiting inside, but when Grace tries to enter, the door is locked. She struggles in the freezing cold, so she continues walking, and eventually finds herself back in front of the same lodge she had left. She notices something buried in the snow, which turns out to be a flower, and a photograph. Just then, Aiden emerges from the house and takes her inside the room. Later, they look at the photograph and realize it is of Aiden and Mia, with the phrase in loving memory. Aiden speculates that maybe all of them are dead, but Grace insists it doesn't make any sense, especially as she feels cold and hungry. Afterwards, Grace puts a cross on the wall, and suddenly hears her father's voice again, commanding her to repent her sins, and surrender her soul, as God is waiting. Up next, she is shocked when she finds Aiden and Mia asking God for forgiveness for their sins, and finds an obituary with them, which surprisingly says that all three of them died in an accident caused by a defective gas heater. Aiden urges Grace to repent as well, saying it's the only way to reach heaven, but she refuses to believe anyone. She begins yelling and screaming at him, so Aiden claims he will prove it to her and walks away. Moments later, Grace is summoned by screaming Mia, and her eyes widen in horror when she sees Aiden hanging by the neck. But the boy suddenly raises his head and tells Grace that they cannot die, because they are already dead and trapped in purgatory. They must confess their sins and cleanse their souls to reach heaven. And so, a panicked Grace kneels before the painting of the Virgin Mary and begs for protection, while her father is again heard in the background. But in a shocking twist, it is revealed that the voice is not in her head, but it is coming from Bluetooth speakers upstairs. Next, Grace goes out into the snow and begins wandering in circles on her knees, desperately begging for help. Not long after, the kids watch from the window and see her holding Grady in her arms. A worried Mia quickly rushes downstairs, and finds Grace holding the dog, devastated by this, and blames herself for leaving the door open. She tearfully apologizes to Grace and begs her to come inside, as it's too cold, but the woman doesn't even move. Up next, the siblings discuss what to do next, and Mia worries that Grace might freeze to death. They then proceed to a hidden room barricaded by doors, where they have stored all of the items that disappeared from the house, revealing that the entire ordeal was nothing more than just a cruel prank. They approach Grace outside and cover her with a blanket before urging her to come inside. Aiden finally reveals that they were pretending the entire time, as they aren't dead, and he didn't hang himself. But Grace doesn't respond to his words, and begins praying, lamenting that they are all sinners. The kids then head to the basement to turn on the generator, but this time, it doesn't work for real. Aiden asks Mia for her phone, but she admits that it has no battery because she had been talking to their dad too much. Later, the kids are in their room when they hear strange noises, and rush to investigate. To their shock, they find Grace placing hot coals on the floor and putting her knees on them. The terrified siblings run away as Grace continues punishing herself, convinced she must repent for the harm she has caused the family. She begins screaming in agony, while the kids get scared of her and hide in the attic. Richard notices Mia's dollhouse, which is a replica of the lodge. There is a small doll hanging from the wall, which reveals that the siblings had planned this before they left for the house. And so, Richard leaves voicemails on his kids' phones, saying that he has tried to call them but received no response. He will be at the lodge in 5 or 6 hours. Back in the lodge, Mia leaves the attic to go to the bathroom downstairs. But while returning, the panicked girl returns to the attic, while Grace follows her and asks her not to be scared, as they are dead anyway. She tells Mia that she must make a sacrifice to get rid of earthly sins, and asks her to burn her doll. When Mia refuses, Grace proceeds to burn the doll herself, but Aiden puts out the flames immediately. Grace, with a blank face, tells them that it's going to be okay, and asks them to trust her before pulling out the gun. Shortly after, Richard finally arrives at the lodge, where he's horrified to find a deceased Grady lying in his doghouse. He goes upstairs, where he notices Grace and the kids leaving the attic. A horrified Richard asks what happened, and Grace says God is punishing them for what they did. She points the gun at her head and says she is already dead, while Richard tries to convince her to drop the gun, telling her that no one has died. But Grace refuses to listen and pulls the trigger, yet no bullet comes out, which only confirms more of her suspicions. Richard tries to take the gun from her. But then, this horrifies the kids, who rush down to their dad. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Aiden quickly takes his sister away and gets into Richard's vehicle to escape. Grace also slowly leaves the lodge and notices the kids struggling to drive away in the snow. In the final scene, we see Grace with the kids and Richard's dead body sitting at the dining table. She begins praying and singing the hymn her father used to sing, which the kids are also forced to sing. Grace then stands up with a tape labeled Sin over her mouth and places the same tapes on the kids as well. As the movie ends, we see the loaded gun with 2 bullets, signifying that Grace is ready to kill the kids to carry forward her father's legacy. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror suspense films from 2025, titled Mother of Flies. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with a naked, blood-soaked woman making love with corpses, while talking about the beauty of death. The scene cuts to a cabin, which is swarmed with flies, and littered with dead animals. We then see the same woman from earlier, but she is now much older, and her name is Solveig. It appears she is a witch in the midst of a ritual. Elsewhere, we see a girl named Mickey playing the piano, and savoring the final moments of her time at college before summer vacation begins. She chats with a worried friend who asks if it's back, but Mickey quickly dismisses the concern, and insists she's perfectly fine. Afterward, the two promise to see each other again in a couple of months, and say their goodbyes. Moments later, Mickey is picked up by her father, Jake, and the two drive off toward an unknown destination. Jake asks her what her friends think about what they're planning to do, but Mickey admits she hasn't told him anything. The scene then returns to Solveig, who is wandering through the woods. She comes across a dead deer, whose carcass is crawling with flies, so she approaches the animal and begins chanting something. In another scene, Mickey and Jake arrive at a roadside diner, where he asks her how she found the woman they're going to meet. But a visibly nervous Mickey says the woman reached out to her, and doesn't reveal anything beyond that. That night, the father and daughter stay at a motel, where they reminisce about Mickey's late mother, and become emotional. Solveig is seen standing motionless, right when dozens of flies begin to pour from her mouth. Meanwhile, in the motel, Mickey jolts awake to see a bizarre piece of flesh smeared across the wall, only for it to vanish in a matter of seconds. The next morning, the father and daughter continue their journey into a remote area. On the way, Jake stops the car and asks his daughter if she is sure about this. The girl says yes, and admits that it may sound like a scam, but she is willing to give it a shot. Jake worries about how they're going to pay this mysterious woman, and Mickey says they don't have to, because it's all for free. Jake is deeply unsettled by this and says that nothing in life is free, so they must be very careful. After a while, the two finally arrive in front of an old cabin that looks like a treehouse, where there is a large pile of stones nearby. They approach the cabin, where they are greeted by none other than Solveig, who welcomes them. Once inside, Mickey notices a butterfly that appears to be dead, and Solveig states that it is just as beautiful as when it was alive. She then takes Mickey to her room, where there is a bed made entirely of moss, but Mickey seems excited by it. Solveig then takes Jake to his room, which is also equally bizarre. Jake also informs Solveig that he's just here to support his daughter, and to pretend that everything will somehow work out. But Solveig reminds him that death is already growing inside Mickey, and has given her meaning of life, while it has stripped Jake of his faith. The scene then cuts to a flashback, where we see a villager woman approaching Solveig and desperately asking for her help with a pregnant woman. It turns out the child was stillborn, and the villagers sought Solveig's help even though they hated and feared her. Using a small twig, Solveig cut into the woman's stomach, and pulled out the lifeless child. The mother survived, and Solveig held the dead baby with an unsettling smile. This left a villager woman deeply disturbed, so she quickly snatched the tiny corpse away from the witch. In the present, we see Solveig leading Mickey into the woods, and asking the young woman when she was first diagnosed with cancer. Mickey explains that she was just 15, and the doctors told her that her chances of surviving were 50-50. She eventually recovered, but the cancerous tumor has returned, and now the doctors have given her only 6 months to live, which is why she has come to seek Solveig's help. Later, the witch brings Mickey in front of an ancient tree, with Jake following at a distance. Solveig places her hand near Mickey's belly, and senses that she cannot become a mother, as her uterus has been removed. But she comforts the girl, saying that even though it is fruitless, a tree is still a tree. She then places a ring on Mickey's finger as a symbol of union, explaining that the two circles represent life and death. Next, Solveig raises her hands, and begins chanting something, before suddenly stopping, and walking away. Witnessing this, Jake is deeply unnerved and suggests to his daughter that they should leave and find a good doctor for her condition. But Mickey refuses and places her full trust in the witch, who has promised she can cure her in just 3 days. Later, at the cabin, Solveig offers the father and daughter some fruits and mushrooms to eat, and when they hesitate to say a blessing, she takes it upon herself. She begins chanting a prayer while piercing her finger with the twig, letting blood drip freely. When she finishes, Jake says, "Amen," which panics Solveig, so she demands that he undo what he said and spit the word onto the floor. A confused Jake does as he's told, after which he reluctantly eats the food. Suddenly, Solveig grabs a dead butterfly and eats it, shocking both Jake and Mickey. She then places her bloody hand in Mickey's, and asks both father and daughter to close their eyes. But during this time, Mickey sees a terrifying vision in which Solveig's hands transform into the wrinkled hands of an old woman. Sometime later, Solveig is seen in the forest performing a ritual over a dead animal. Later that night, Mickey wakes up and unexpectedly begins wandering into the woods. But to her shock, she sees Solveig naked, covered in blood, and being intimate with something, but the horrifying scene turns out to be only a vision. In another flashback, we see Solveig observing the funeral of the stillborn baby whose mother she had helped. After the ceremony, everyone left, but Solveig suddenly approached the grave and began removing the pile of stones. She dug deeper and deeper, until she uncovered the corpse of the baby, which she lifted with excitement, before taking it away from there. Returning to the present, Solveig walks through the forest, and soon comes across a nest of snakes. She snatches one of their eggs, and scrapes a strange substance from the bark of a nearby tree. Upon returning to her cabin, Solveig begins brewing a tea with the substance from earlier, and offers it to Jake. He invites Mickey to drink as well, but Solveig sternly says no, which scares Jake. He is very hesitant, but ends up drinking the tea in the end. After this, Solveig takes Mickey into the woods, during which the girl asks if she has dosed her father, but the witch calmly replies that she only helped him open his mind. Back in the cabin, we see Jake screaming in pain, before he suddenly begins violently vomiting blood. The poor man's eyes are drawn outside, where he is horrified to see a glimpse of a woman's shriveled corpse. Elsewhere, Solveig draws a circle on some rocks beside the water, and asks Mickey to lie down on them. The witch demands that she show where the tumor is, so Mickey shows her belly, saying that the tumor is the size of an apple. Solveig then pours a little holy water over it, and instructs Mickey to sing to the tumor as if it were a baby. Mickey complies, during which Solveig shockingly cuts open the snake egg from earlier, and pours its contents onto the girl's belly. And then, Mickey's stomach rips open in a gruesome wound, causing her to scream in unbearable pain, but Solveig calmly says that this is the way it should be. Sometime later, Solveig and Mickey return to the cabin, where they find Jake sitting in front of the pile of stones. He reveals how he's been vomiting all morning, and wonders what was in that tea. He is worried for his daughter's well-being, so Solveig asks Mickey to show her the progress. Mickey then reveals her wounds, which horrifies and deeply worries her father. Solveig calmly states that it's a good thing because now the tumor is wounded, but Jake doesn't believe her. And so, Solveig insists that this is not so different from when they put Mickey through radiation and chemotherapy, which burned her from the inside. She explains that the cure is always painful, and even though Mickey understands, Jake remains skeptical. The scene then cut to another flashback, where we see Solveig living with the baby she had managed to revive. Unfortunately, the mother of the child and the other villagers discovered what she had done and became furious. They thus attacked Solveig and snatched the revived baby away from her. In the present, Mickey asks her father what he will do if the cure doesn't work and she dies. He jokingly responds that he will kill himself as well, and follow her to the afterlife. Elsewhere, we see Solveig wearing a strange mask and crushing a bone in her hands, until it turns into maggots. That night, Solveig offers the father and daughter some meat, claiming it is venison. She then goes off to her room, saying she needs to prepare for tomorrow's ritual. Once alone, Jake tells his daughter that he has noticed that Solveig never really eats, and no matter how much he eats, he always seems hungry. He also points out that there is no stove in the house, or running water, and wonders how the witch even cooked this meat. But Mickey remains trusting of the witch, and says her only concern is getting well at the moment. She also shockingly reveals that Solveig reached out to her in a dream, and that is how she knew about this place. That night, Jake wakes up hearing strange noises outside, and when he checks, he finds a drunken couple throwing rocks at the tall pile of stones.
Bonk.
Jake asks them to leave, but they tell him it's none of his business. When Jake warns them that it's disrespectful to Solveig, the couple suddenly becomes terrified for some reason, and drives away. The next morning, Solveig enters a cave in the forest, where she comes across a snake. She lies down beside it, and in a bizarre turn of events, the snake begins to slither into her mouth. Later, she takes Mickey somewhere, and the girl asks if her dad is coming. Solveig says he needs a moment alone, and we see a scene of Jake who seems entranced, with maggots writhing in his open mouth. Meanwhile, Solveig tells Mickey that today is the third and final day, but it's going to be a long one. Mickey asks if the rituals are working, and Solveig assures her that she will live to grow old, and eventually die. On the way, they also notice a deer that Solveig had revived days ago, and she smiles upon seeing it. Later, the two reach the entrance of the cave from before, when Mickey asks the witch why she is helping her. Solveig reveals that they both hurt each other, and cryptically says that Mickey's curse is her gift. Next, she asks Mickey to sit down, before inserting a twig into her ear, causing Mickey to fall into a trance. And then, Solveig then shockingly transfers a large snake from her own throat into Mickey's. After some time, they return home, where Solveig goes to Jake's room and breaks him free from his trance. Later, Jake finds his daughter in a terrible and sick state, which worries him a lot. He states that Solveig is a fraud, and that she's not going to cure her. Jake also says that he has been trying to be supportive, but he's reached his breaking point, and demands that they go home. But Mickey refuses and tells her father he can leave if he wants, but she will not die because of him. Overwhelmed by desperation and pain, she begins screaming at him, until he finally storms out of the woods. Later, Jake goes to a local diner to collect his thoughts, while Mickey begins crying as the wound on her skin causes her unbearable pain. Suddenly, she has a terrifying vision of a dead person emerging from the ceiling, leaving her paralyzed with horror. At this point, Mickey wonders if her father was right, so she finally decides to run away from the house, which doesn't go unnoticed by Solveig. Elsewhere, Jake decides to stay at a local hotel, where he speaks with a receptionist, and reveals how he came to the town seeking a healer for his sick daughter. He asks if she knows Solveig, to which the woman says that Solveig is a necromancer, who can trick death. In a shocking twist, she reveals that a couple of hundred years ago, Solveig brought a stillborn baby back from the dead. But the villagers discovered this and burned the baby, assuming it to be evil. Afterward, they buried Solveig alive, and the poor woman screamed for her baby, while being trapped in the dirt. It turns out her grave is the same place as the piles of stones, where people throw rocks to prevent her from leaving. Upon hearing this, a horrified Jake asks who lives in that house in the woods, but the receptionist surprisingly reveals that there is no house in there. This fills Jake with panic and terror, and he quickly leaves to save his daughter. Elsewhere, we see Mickey running through the woods and trying to escape the witch, while Solveig hovers eerily above her. Not long after, Mickey notices strange faces forming in the trees, right when Solveig knocks her unconscious. Solveig then drags her and brings her to the piles of stones of her grave. Moments later, Mickey begins to wake up, and Solveig tells her how she suffered for centuries without love, buried in the dirt and constantly mocked by others. She explains that Mickey heard her screams from beneath the earth, which allowed the witch to finally rise again. Next, Solveig uses the twig to cut open Mickey's belly, while the poor girl struggles with unbearable pain. The witch then plunges her hand inside, and finally removes the cancerous tumor, as Mickey screams uncontrollably. In a shocking turn of events, Solveig uses her dark magic to transform the tumor into a lifeless baby, which fills her with overwhelming joy and excitement. She thanks Mickey for giving her this, while the poor girl passes out from blood loss. Sometime later, Jake finally returns to the house, and finds his bloody daughter passed out in front of the pile of stones. He quickly shakes her awake, but strangely, they notice that there is no wound on Mickey's bloody body, leaving both of them stunned. We then see another flashback from many years ago, where a helpless Solveig is seen watching as the baby was burned alive by his mother. Solveig was then pelted with stones by the cruel villagers, who buried her alive. In the present, Mickey and Jake dig up Solveig's grave, where they are horrified to discover the skeleton of a woman cradling the skeleton of an infant. In the final scene, Mickey and Jake visit a doctor, who reveals that Mickey is completely free from cancer, and shows no signs of chemical or radiation damage. The doctor says he cannot believe the results, and offers to run more tests, but Mickey insists that no further tests are needed, as the movie comes to an end. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror mystery films from 2009, titled The Haunting in Connecticut. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. she begins recounting her story. We are then taken to the past, to June 19, 1987. Sarah and her terminally ill son, Matt, are heading home in their car after a routine checkup at the hospital. She keeps praying to God that his cancer treatment will work. Sadly, Matt is so fragile that he has to stop multiple times throughout the long journey to vomit. When they reach home, Sarah informs her husband Peter about Matt's vomiting episodes, expressing that she is tired of making him suffer. Turns out the drive to the hospital from their home is taking 8 hours when Matt is continuously vomiting, and she suggests that they move closer to the city. Peter is a bit skeptical about it, as they are struggling on finances lately. He fears that they cannot afford the rent in Connecticut, but upon seeing his sick son and tired wife, he eventually agrees. During the next trip to the hospital, the doctor informs Sarah that the treatment is going to be very grueling, but Matt is perfectly eligible for the treatment, so it is the best chance they have. As the son is undergoing treatment, Sarah goes on a house hunt. She checks numerous places, but they are either too expensive or not good enough. Later, she comes across a large house, where the owner is hammering in the rental sign, so she asks about the price, and the frustrated man offers her the first month free if she moves in immediately. He shows her around the large house, and Sarah absolutely loves the place, but she's also intrigued at why the rent is so cheap, and the man reveals that the house has a bit of a history. Sarah then informs her husband that she found a very nice house, but turned it down because it didn't feel right. When Matt's treatment is over, the mothersome duo heads home. But the poor boy is left in so much pain that he can barely sit straight. Seeing his condition, Sarah turns around and heads straight to the house for rent. She has decided to rent it, as she can no longer see Matt suffer the lengthy driving journeys. Later, Matt tries to watch the television, but he quickly gets bored and turns it off, and we see a shadowy figure in the distance. At midnight, Matt suddenly wakes up from his sleep. He hears strange noises coming from upstairs, but he dismisses it as his imagination. He then goes to the bathroom and washes his face to freshen up. Even then, the noise persists. This finally piques his curiosity and he decides to investigate. Matt slowly heads to the basement, where he finds a creepy-looking glass door. And as he looks into it, Matt wakes up on his bed, dismissing it as a nightmare. The mother brings her son into the kitchen, where she tells him he may choose his room before the rest of the family arrives. As she is preparing the rooms, she finds several dead photographs hidden in the old furniture of the house. This creeps her out, so she promptly discards them into the trash. Meanwhile, Matt looks around the large house, and eventually chooses the basement as his room. He explains that the place has an attached bathroom, so no one can hear him puke down here. There is also a glass door in the basement that leads to another room, but currently it's locked. Soon after, Peter arrives with the rest of the family. It includes Matt's younger brother, Billy, and cousins Wendy and Mary. Wendy is shown to a room with a massive closet, and as they open the closet door, that evening, Matt is in his basement, trying to figure out what is there on the other side of the glass door. His closet door. That evening, Matt is in his basement, trying to figure out what is there on the other side of the glass door. His mom is cleaning the room with a wet mop, but Matt suddenly sees blood on the floor. But when he checks again, he realizes that it's just water. Later on, Matt takes the plates out from the shelf and puts them on the table. But when he grabs the spoons, the plates are not there anymore and are now back on the shelf. He asks his mom if she did it, but she denies it. Matt then finds the plates missing and they fall to the ground behind him. Sarah apologizes for making him work, but Matt tells her that he didn't drop it. Worried, she asks if he started seeing things, but he tells her everything is fine. Turns out the doctor has told him that if he starts hallucinating, he'll be deemed unsuitable for the treatment. Later at night, Matt wakes up to strange noises coming from behind the glass door. He sees a bearded man and a boy inside the room. The man is carving symbols and letters on a dead body, as the boy carefully watches. He then grabs a sharp tool and cuts off the corpse's eyelid, right when Matt wakes up in his bed. Puzzled by the strange occurrences, he gets up and walks to the mysterious door. He tries to hold the doorknob, but his hand suddenly starts burning, and the burn leaves a massive scar on his palm. hides the fact that he's having auditory and visual hallucinations, so he is approved for stage 2 of the treatment. After returning to but the wall returns to its original state once he calls his mother. That night, Matt wakes up to the sound of the mysterious door opening. He gets up and slowly walks into the room. The next morning, Matt's brother Billy comes to the basement looking for him. He then finds him inside the but while he does so, he suddenly gets visions of an empty coffin filled with sandbags. He rotates the table at a rapid pace, but fortunately, Matt snaps out of it and stops the table. Soon, Dad also arrives at the room, and gets shocked to see all the surgical equipment lying around. This makes him realize that the house was a funeral home, hence why its rent is so cheap. Later, Peter calls his wife out for hiding such a big secret, but she reasons that she had no other choice at that time. Plus, the place is perfectly well, so there's nothing to worry about. At the dinner table, Peter tells his family that although this house was used for funerals in the past, it is just a normal house now. He then asks everyone to hold hands so that they can pray, and strangely, Matt begins experiencing visions. He sees a boy named Jonah, with a bearded man, and a couple of other people. They are currently sitting across a table, holding hands. Jonah is convulsing vigorously throughout the ordeal, and it seems they are performing some sort of ritual. As all of this is happening, Matt seems visibly stressed. His family is worried about his condition, but Sarah explains that it's due to his treatment. The following day at the hospital, Matt meets a fellow patient, Nicholas, who turns out to be a reverend. Matt talks about the visions, but Nicholas tells him to keep it a secret, because if the hospital staff find out, they will remove him from the treatment. He also hands him his number, saying he can call him anytime if he wants to talk. In the next scene, the younger cousin Mary is playing with her dolls, and the withered hands with symbols cut into them can be seen behind her. Later, while playing hide and seek with his siblings, Matt starts to have visions. He sees the boy Jonah being scolded and forcefully pulled into the mortuary room by the bearded man. Matt follows them into the room filled with corpses, and the door behind him suddenly gets locked. He is frozen with fear when he sees the room is no longer empty. Then, one of the bodies is moving, and several dead bodies with carvings appear, and surround him. Fortunately, the family arrives just in time, and the mysterious figures also disappear, making them believe that Matt is hallucinating again. Later, Matt meets Reverend Nicholas and asks him about his visions. The latter gives him a short speech about the afterlife and encourages him to find out what the spirit wants. In the evening, as Matt tries to do some sit-ups, the burned figure suddenly shows up, as if it's trying to communicate. When the family returns home that night, the shirtless Matt is ripped at the wall with his fingers, and he placed a pile of furniture in the center of the room. The mother and husband take their son to the doctor, who says his odd behavior is unrelated to his illness or treatment. As a result, this strange behavior of his shocks everyone, and they finally begin to crack under the stress. One day, while the parents are away, the kids ask to play hide and seek with Wendy. She agrees and the two run to find their hiding spot. Billy gets inside the dumbwaiter, while Mary hides in the attic. Suddenly, the little boy notices the burnt figure behind him, and he anxiously tries to get out. The door seems to be stuck, and luckily, Wendy arrives at the scene. They then hear Mary screaming from the attic, and rush to the place, finding her foot stuck on the broken floorboard. Matt pulls her leg out, and then he looks through the hole. He finds photographs, and strange items hidden beneath the floorboard. In the next scene, the teenagers begin to inspect these items. Matt finds a box containing some weird things, but he doesn't know what they are. He then looks at the pictures, and gets taken aback to find the boy from his visions. In one of the photos, Jonah is emitting strange messages. Matt subsequently reveals to Wendy that he has seen the boy before. He has been seeing him since the day he arrived at the house. Hearing this, Wendy realizes that the house is haunted, so she decides to find more about the house and its owners. At At the local library, she eventually discovers that the funeral home was run by a man named Ramsey Aikman, the terrifying bearded person that always drove her out. He used to conduct psychic research on his clients. Jonah was his assistant, but he was not just an ordinary mortal. He was a medium, through which dead people could be contacted. So, Aikman used him to conduct regular seances, and people from all over the world came to contact their deceased relatives. Aikman also found a way to amplify the seances, through which he could make things appear, things like ectoplasm. Ectoplasm is a mysterious protoplasmic substance. It streams out of the body of the mediums through the mouths, ears, noses, eyes, and even the lower orifices. It is revealed that Aikman performed all his seances in his house. They were extremely popular with a lot of influential researchers. But during one seance, he and all four sitters suddenly got killed. The cause could not be determined, while Jonah disappeared, never to be found again. 30 years after the incident, during the 1950s, when the state highway was expanded, it passed through the county's cemetery. The government dug the graves to relocate them to a different plot, but they found empty coffins filled with sandbags. Someone had stolen the bodies long ago, and Matt speculates that either Aikman or Jonah is responsible for all this. The two then invite Nicholas to take a look at the items. The Reverend is shocked by the discovery, and he reveals that the strange items in the box are human eyelids. He theorizes that Aikman was practicing necromancy, a form of magic, through control of the dead's body parts with their eyelids. He also enhanced Jonah's power through the same process, and theorizes that Aikman bound the spirit of the dead to amplify his seances, via rituals like desecrating their bodies. He then asks the teenagers to pray for the people who died in the house. But as soon as they hold each other's hands, Matt teleports into Jonah's world where he is performing the last seance. As Aikman watches, the boy starts shaking, and ultimately emits ectoplasm from his mouth. Suddenly, the ectoplasm seems to catch fire, burning everything. Sarah arrives at the exact same time and gets alarmed to find a stranger holding her son. Nicholas makes an effort to inform the mother about ghosts in the home, but she kicks him out of the house, and he manages to give her his card. That night, strange things start happening around the house. Wendy's room is flooded with bats, and she encounters the burnt sheet, while Sarah sees a dead body with letters carved on it. Sometime later, all the power outlets and equipment around the house suddenly generate sparks. The spirits of the dead also whisper in an eerie manner, sending the family into a state of panic. As a result, Sarah finally decides to call Reverend Nicholas for help, and he arrives at their home. Without wasting any time, he uses a holy magnet to find the remains of Jonah. Nicholas then ventures into the mortuary in the basement, and figures out that Jonah was trapped inside a furnace. As he reaches for his remains, the whole house wakes up. The doors and windows start to bang, and bats begin flying here and there. The spirit of Jonah also approaches Matt, who is crouching on bed with Mom, while Nicholas gets access to the furnace from the rear of the house. He pulls out the boy's remains, and collects them in a cloth. The Reverend struggles to walk as Jonah's spirit is resisting, but he eventually drags himself out of the house, which causes Jonah to disappear. Nicholas then leaves with the ashes, while Matt sees Jonah's spirit outside the basement window before he sleeps. That night, the family breathes a sigh of relief, as they think the danger has subsided. But down in the basement, Matt awakens to a horrific sight. Aikman's symbols have been carved across his body. The mom rushes down to see the horrific sight, and she rushes the poor son to the hospital right away. Elsewhere, as Nicholas drives back home, he sees Jonah on his back seat and freaks out. He almost crashes into another vehicle, but somehow manages to swerve. At this point, both Nicholas and Matt start to have simultaneous visions. They see Jonah in the seance where he is emitting ectoplasm, and after a flash of bright light, everyone is burned except him. He gets up, and hears a barely alive Aikman warns him to get out of the house. Aikman is concerned that the demonic presence will get him next. Unfortunately, the spirits close all the doors and windows, trapping him inside. Jonah enters a chamber through the dumbwaiter, desperately seeking an escape. But he doesn't realize that he has actually entered the furnace, and the evil spirits lock the gate, and cremate him alive. As soon as the vision ends, Reverend Nicholas realizes that he made a big mistake. children trapped in the house and are trying to harm the family. He also reveals that Jonah was actually trying to protect the family and free the tormented souls. But now that he has been removed from the house, the dead souls have been let loose. Nicholas then warns them to flee the house immediately. Wendy, who is in the bathroom, is attacked by the spirits, who try to suffocate her, but she manages to survive. At the hospital, a doctor reveals that Matt's cancer treatments have had no effect. He may actually die tonight, and it's only a miracle that he's still alive. Shattered, the parents go to meet their son, but learn that he has escaped from the hospital. At home, strong winds start blowing, and when Wendy goes out to retrieve the clothes, she notices Matt coming towards the house. He is carrying an axe, with a possessed look on his face. This sends Wendy panicking and she immediately closes the door, but Matt manages to break in using his weapon. He catches up to her in the front room, and he immediately strikes the wall, revealing a carved corpse hidden behind it. He then drags the kids and Wendy out of the house, and locks all the doors, and then barricades it with furniture. He continues to strike the walls with his axe, revealing more dusty corpses hidden by Aikman. They tumble into the room in large numbers, but our boy keeps on striking the walls, revealing more and more horrifying sights. After this, Matt pours Aikman's formaldehyde all over the bodies and the walls, and then he lights them on fire. He also throws the pictures and human eyelids into the flames. Soon, Matt finds himself surrounded by the spirits of the desecrated bodies. Realizing that he is going to die, he kneels before them and screams. Outside, his parents, Reverend Nicholas, and the emergency services have all arrived. Hearing his son's screams, Peter runs towards the front door, but he is stopped by the cops, while Sarah manages to sneak inside the house through the side door. Upon finding Matt unconscious on the ground, she drags him to the corner and tries to wake him up. Finally, the spirits, who have finally been freed, start disappearing. The firefighters also break into the wall and rescue the duo. The emergency crew attempts to resuscitate Matt, while Sarah frantically cries and prays. As he is about to die, he has a vision of himself in the graveyard, and he spots Jonah, who is no longer burnt. Matt is about to follow him, but he hears his mother's voice and suddenly comes to life. As he wakes up, Nicholas can see Jonah's spirit, who can finally leave Matt, while the family gathers around the poor son. The movie then cuts to the present. In her interview, Sarah reveals that Matt's cancer disappeared, and he is alive and well. The house was rebuilt and resold, with no further reported incidents of haunting. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror sci-fi films from 2016, titled Rupture. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight into the storyline. The movie begins as we see a single mother named Renee Morgan, who lives with her son, Evan. She is getting ready for the day when she suddenly stumbles upon a spider in the bathroom. This makes Renee scream in fear, so Evan promptly arrives and takes the spider away from her son. Only after this, Renee breathes a sigh of relief and lies down on her bed. During breakfast, Evan complains about a faulty light cable and suggests calling the electrician. However, Renee shows him a box cutter and claims she can fix it herself. Evan then explains that he needs her help with an assignment on his family tree homework. He has already done his mother's side, but he needs his father's background as well. Since he is distant from his dad, he asks Renee for help in convincing him, which she agrees to. At this moment, we see that their house is tapped by some cameras, and someone is watching them without their knowledge. Meanwhile, a bald man shows up outside, and sticks a device in Renee's car. In the house, Evan is struggling with math homework, and he gets frustrated and curses himself. Renee then tells her son to quickly get in the car. They are actually going to his dad's place, where Evan will be staying for the weekend. During the drive, the bald man follows them closely. Renee tells her son that she is going skydiving today with a friend. Just then, they receive a voicemail from Evan's father cursing at her, which ruins their mood. After a while, The two reach Evan's father's place, and Renee talks with her ex-husband and mentions that Evan was upset when he heard the angry voicemail. But Dad claims it's her fault for playing it in front of their son. She then tells him how frustrated Evan gets when he can't solve math problems. Following this, Renee heads to meet her friend, with whom she is going skydiving, while the bald man and his associate are following her closely. When they arrive at a quiet area, these people use a remote control, and suddenly burst Renee's car tire. Panicked, she goes out to check, only to find an iron wedge stuck in the wheel. At this moment, a man stops his truck nearby, and offers to help Renee change the tire. She agrees and feels happy that there are kind people to help her in the middle of nowhere. As the driver pulls out the spare tire from the trunk, his companion gets out to smoke. But while Renee's distracted, they suddenly gang up on her and pin her to the ground, and tase her. They put tape all over her face, and load her in the truck. Inside, there's an elderly lady named Dr. Nyman, and they cuff Renee to the seat. Dr. Nyman then cuts her jeans, saying it'll make it easier for her to pee on their long trip. During the trip, Renee tries different ways to free herself and escape, but without success. Later, when they stop at a gas station, Dr. Nyman makes a hole in the tape over Renee's mouth, and offers her a spiked drink. Although she refuses it, the woman continues to force her until she eventually swallows it. Renee asks what they want from her, but Dr. Nyman doesn't respond and leaves. Moments later, the drink begins to take effect and she falls into a deep sleep. In the following scene, Renee wakes up, and realizes she's being wheeled into a facility on a stretcher. Here she notices another captive named Seth on a nearby stretcher. She asks him why they've been kidnapped, and he explains that the captors need them for something called G1012X. When Renee asks what it means, Seth admits he has no idea. Just then, a staff member arrives, and escorts Renee to her assigned room. Moments later, another staff member enters the room, and removes the tape from her face. He tells her that she can scream all she wants, but no one will come to save her, and she will just disturb the other subjects. He then compliments Renee's skin, and tells her not to worry because the process will be over soon. She tries to protest and begins to kick him, but he easily subdues her. He informs her that she might think she won't survive this, but the result will amaze her. After he leaves, Renee looks around the room and sees many surgical instruments. She then shakes out her box cutter, which turns out to be hidden in her shoes. When she tries to reach with her hand, she struggles a lot, making a lot of noise. Another captive in the next room hears this and begins talking with her. The man claims that his name is Blake, and discloses that the doctors forced the subject to face their fears. Renee then asks what G1012X is, but he claims he has no idea. Blake instead reveals that there are a total of 20 people captivated in this facility, and the guy who was in Renee's room before got released recently. During this, Renee finally manages to retrieve the box cutter. But she doesn't get to use it much, as the bald man and a staff member named Diane enter her room for her checkup. Renee tells them about Blake, and how he mentioned someone being released from the facility. However, the bald man claims that Blake might be a hallucination, or maybe he does exist and is simply playing mind games with her. The two then wear special glasses and begin checking the health status of Renee. She pleads with them to let her go and claims that she has a son whom she can't abandon. But Diane claims they are aware of Evan and assures her that he is safe with his father. The bald man then begins asking her several questions, such as her date and place of birth, and other personal information. Renee continues to ask them who they are, but they completely ignore her questions. Eventually, she gives up and claims that she is willing to cooperate and do anything to get back to her son. After this, Diane carefully examines Renee's eyesight, and asks her to read the last line on the chart. However, the reader fails to recognize it. The bald man then tracks the precise number, 426744, and asks Renee what it said, but she didn't hear it. He also asks about her medical history and health, and she claims that she had a knee injury in the past. After completing all the tests, the bald man begins working the series of tools, and when it comes to spiders, Renee becomes visibly nervous, but claims she's not afraid of everything right now. Before departing, he weirdly feels her cheeks with his face, and tells her that she will feel it soon. Once she is left alone, Renee brings out the box cutter and tries to sever her straps. But the process is too difficult and she ends up dropping it to the ground. Not long after, Diane returns to the room with a man named Dr. Raxlin. He also feels Renee's cheeks and compliments her skin. He then takes out an injection with some orange substance, and she asks if it's G1012X. Hearing this, Dr. Raxlin is impressed, and claims it's good news that she knows about G1012X. As Dr. Raxlin injects Renee with the substance, he informs her that it is a solution that will accelerate the process that will help her lead an entirely different way of life. As soon as she gets injected, Renee starts having strange visions, and sees Evan get locked up. While she is struggling, we see a man named Terrence, who is in charge of the entire operation. He tells her that she will be allowed to leave soon and meet her son, but they need her first for something. When Renee wakes up, Diane and the bald man transfer her to another room, and put more restraints on her right arm. To her horror, after lowering a tube into her arm, they release a big spider that begins crawling toward her. Renee begins to panic, and Diane scares her further by saying that this spider is very venomous, and can cause the human spinal fluid to boil. The bald man urges her not to fight and let it happen, but Renee is unable to calm herself. Seeing her so paranoid, they eventually take away the spider, and escort her back to her room. The bald man is dismayed about the result, but Diane remains optimistic for the second test. After rubbing his cheek against Renee's face, the bald man asks Renee if she understands what he's trying to tell her, but she doesn't. The bald man believes in Renee because he feels she will rupture every time he touches her. Diane asserts that it is good news and assures Renee that when it happens, her suffering will be over. She claims that when Renee returns to her old life, she will be a changed woman, but she should be aware that the process will be painful as well. After they leave, Renee tries to break free, and finally takes off her straps. As she frees herself, she takes out the box cutter, which was dropped earlier. She then opens a vent using the cutter, and begins crawling through it. During this time, she sees many captives who are being tortured based on their worst fears. Renee sees a woman who is afraid of heights hanging in the air. Then there's another man who is being tortured by the picture and voice of his father. As she moves forward, she notices Seth drowning in a pool of blood and screaming for help. A while later, Renee reaches a bathroom, where she hears two workers talking about the rupture. She finds out that this is not the only facility, and these ruptures are happening all over the world. One of them complains that there have been 47 ruptures, but only 24 women are fertile. After they leave, Renee also exits the bathroom, and continues moving through the vent. Eventually, she finds a ladder leading up to the roof and gets excited. Unfortunately, her hopes are dashed when she realizes that the roof is sealed with grates, leaving her with no means of escape, so she backs down. While exploring the area, she arrives in Blake's room, where he is in the midst of his final test. Renee asks him to run away, but he refuses and claims he is going home soon. She again asks him about G1012X, and he replies that it has something to do with the skin because they were rubbing his face. Just then, a snake begins to crawl up on Blake, and it turns out this is his final test. Suddenly, the staff approaches the room, so Renee quickly hides under the bed. The staff notice Blake's panicked face, and express disappointment that he failed the final test. Dr. Raxlin claims that he will be home soon. They then prepare to sedate him for the journey, and tell him that this experience will change his way of seeing the world from now on. After they take Blake away, Renee quietly walks through the hallway and continues sneaking around. She eventually enters a lab room, where she discovers a map of facilities around the world where ruptures are performed. But before Renee can investigate more, she feels someone's presence, so she takes off and hides in a room. From there, she sees one of the staff members in a nearby room removing his eye lenses. Seeing his strange reptilian eyes, Renee is terrified and realizes that these people are not humans. Following this, she runs away and reaches the hallways, where she stumbles upon the horrifying sight of Seth's lifeless body. Some staff members also arrive, prompting her to hide in the storeroom. The staff members express their disappointment that Blake and Seth came so close and failed. However, Diane mentions they still have Renee, and the team decides to check on her. This panics Renee, so she swiftly makes her way back to her room through the vent. She straps herself back, and lies down on the bed. Moments later, Diane and Dr. Raxlin walk into the room to check up on her. Dr. Raxlin asks her if she experienced hallucinations, but Renee says she doesn't know because she has seen too many weird things. After the doctor leaves, Diane prepares to inject her with the orange substance. She puts down the injection in a nearby tray, and claims that this would be so much easier if Renee stopped resisting. She then touches Renee's skin, and assures her that they can help solve Evan's inability to control his emotions and math problems. Shocked, Renee asks how she knew, to which Diane reveals that she can find out everything by simply touching her skin. Diane also discloses that G1012X is a genetic code present within the human body's chromosomes. Through the activation of this code, they modify people's DNA to help them conquer their fears. This process is termed rupture. She explains that this process can give people different abilities, allowing them to change their skin, similar to how snakes shed their old skin and regenerate a new one. To demonstrate this, Diane takes out her lenses and shows her strength and chilling outward. She also performs her face for a while, before reverting back to her original form. The sight horrifies Diane, so she quickly grabs the nearby syringe and stabs Diane in the neck. After the woman falls unconscious, Renee uses her hand to open the security door. She then puts Diane on stretcher, and leaves the room. While running away, Renee comes across a map, where she notices the names of all the people who have been ruptured. She realizes that this has been going on for more than 100 years now. At that moment, Dr. Raxlin and the bald man arrive to look at the ovum they removed from Renee. Dr. Raxlin claims that Renee is fertile, but she is no longer accepting any human sperm. It means that her egg might now only receive DNA from their kind. Here again, Renee begins to run away, but the bald man soon notices her. However, instead of taking her to the facility, he goes to a computer and uses it to find her location. When he locates the spot, he blocks her escape route with a massive black door. He releases chemical gas into the chamber, swiftly rendering Renee unconscious. In the following scene, Renee awakens in a different room to find herself subject to an IV. Here she begins crying helplessly while missing her son, and the bald man, Terrence, Diane, and Dr. Nyman enter to check on her. Diane explains that it has been a day and a half since she lost consciousness. But Renee didn't feel that long, so Terrence reveals that time moves at a different pace for her. She then asks if they are going to punish her for escaping, but he replies that they won't because they like people with strong survival instincts. At that moment, Dr. Nyman quietly mumbles to himself, 426744. And this time, Renee hears it clearly, and repeats it when After that, Dr. Nyman shows her a document from a distance, which she manages to read successfully. Renee is horrified and claims she doesn't want to transform into them, but Terrence asks her not to resist this marvelous evolution. This is the next step in the evolutionary ladder, where all human action and nonsense can be erased forever. She is then shown CCTV footage of Evan, and Terrence tells her that once she is ruptured, she will no longer feel any more. Plus, her medical records will help them find more people like her. Terrence acknowledges that they're not finished, but they all started as humans, just like Renee. Their fear transforms them into something new once they get past this rupture. The human race is already destroying Earth, so they believe they can cure humanity of its self-destructive tendencies by building their numbers and altering the gene pool. The subjects who fail to rupture are returned to their homes safely if they survive. However, some of them do not make it out of the facility because their DNA is corrupted. Following this, the team forcibly captures Renee, and straps her with a transparent helmet for her final test. Numerous spiders are then released, crawling all over her face. Renee begins to panic and runs frantically, while banging her head on the glass panel. She screams in terror and pleads with them to remove the helmet, but the doctors continue to observe. After screaming and struggling for a while, Renee eventually gives up and realizes that she is no longer afraid. Suddenly, her face begins to hideously distort, and the helmet also cracks on its own, while the spiders continue to crawl on her face. In the next scene, we find Renee back in her home, living a seemingly normal life. She is practicing with Terrence how to explain to her friends and family about the changes in her behavior. While doing so, she notices a spider in the bathroom. This time, she casually catches it and releases it outside without any fear. Later that day, Renee tells Evan that she has met some people who are good at math and to help her. So they require him to attend a workshop for a few days, but Evan refuses. He tells her that she has been acting very weird, her anger is also raising red. Not long after, the bald man, Dr. Raxton, and Terrence show up at the house and ask about Evan. Renee tells them that he is upstairs, packing his things. They explain that even after the rupture, she is still fertile, and Evan might also have the potential to be like her. So, they want him to be like them and head upstairs to find him. However, despite everything, Renee still loves her son, so she quickly texts him and asks him to run away as fast as he can. Evan and escapes on his bicycle. Seeing this, Terrence tells Renee that they won't chase after him, because Renee will eventually help them find the boy. Her feelings of love for him will soon disappear, and the only thing she will care about is the number of children she will give to her son. In the end, Terrence reveals that they've been waiting for her for a long time, and they finally have a chance to look for many people and breed children. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Hello everyone. Back again with Film Review. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror mystery films from 2023, titled Home for Rent. Before we get to the story, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the story. The movie opens with a woman named Ning arriving to check on her lease apartment. The real estate agent, Tom, shows her the condition of the place, which has been vandalized by the previous tenant. He also reveals that the tenant, which is the movie opens with a woman named Ning arriving to check on her leased apartment. The movie opens with a woman named Ning arriving to check on her leased apartment. The real estate agent, Tom, shows her the condition of the place, which has been vandalized by the previous tenant. Tom also reveals that the tenant has left the country and isn't replying to his emails. Upon hearing this, a frustrated Ning reports that she can't pay the mortgage she has with the tenant. Tom then comes up with a solution. He mentions that he has a client who's interested in Ning's long term. He suggests that the family move into the apartment and rent out the house and stay in instead, which will bring in more money. However, Ning says that the house is actually owned by her husband, who won't agree with this decision. We later meet her family, which includes her husband, Quinn, and her daughter, Kim. While having breakfast, Ning talks to her husband about renting their house and moving into the apartment. But he is clearly opposed to the idea, and says that it's better to sell the apartment for good. He is also worried about their big house getting vandalized, but Ning assures him that that is the case, since these new tenants are doctors. In the next scene, Ning arrives at a job interview, when she gets the news that someone is arriving to see the house. She requests Quinn to meet with him and show them the place. He is still hesitant, but she convinces him to chat with the tenants before making a final decision. Later, when Ning returns to the house, she notices Quinn talking to an elderly woman named Raxton, who is having a baby. Tom introduces Ning to the tenants, Raxton and her daughter, Nut, saying they are both doctors. They inquire about when they can move in, but before Ning can respond, Quinn suddenly says next month. A month later, we see her family packing their stuff and moving out of the house. Before leaving, Ning says goodbye to their neighbor, Aunt Forn. Ning urges Aunt Forn to be careful if the new tenants cause any problems. In the evening, the family settles into their apartment, and coincidentally, it's also Ing's birthday. They have a small celebration, and Ning gives her a little doll as a gift. However, Ing doesn't like it, and says she actually wanted a Guri doll, with purple hair. Ing apologizes to her daughter, explaining that such dolls are no longer manufactured. Afterward, we see Quinn preparing to sleep on the bed. Ning invites him inside, but he refuses, saying he doesn't want to disturb him while sleeping. Ning thanks him for agreeing to move into the condo, and tries to get him to the Suddenly, she notices a triangle-shaped tattoo on his chest, so Quinn quickly Several days later, Ning returns to the house to retrieve some photo albums from the storage. Nutch doesn't seem too thrilled to see her, but she lets her in anyway. As they open the storage room, Ning notices the same triangle-shaped tattoo on Nutch's neck, leaving her in confusion. And as Nutch goes inside, she receives a text message from Aunt Fawn, who invites her to visit her house before she leaves. Later, Ning goes to the aunt's place, and a worried Fawn explains that the new neighbors appear to be doctors and nurses. They stay at home all day, and there are four others hanging by the door, as if they practice like magic. Fawn reveals that every morning before she hears chanting noises coming from Ning's old age. She also recalls that one night, the dog was barking very loudly, and when she looked outside, she noticed a flock of crows flying over the house. The next morning, she discovered her dog really ripped across the back. Aunt Fawn breaks into tears upon saying this. When Ning returns home, she checks the medical database and enters her tenants' names. To her shock, neither of their names are listed, which means they are not doctors. The next day, she calls her police friend, Nut, and requests that he conduct a background check. Nut asks if they have done anything illegal, to which Ning suspects they might be cultists. In the next scene, there's a young girl arrested, and Ning wakes up to find her flying very building. As she closes, she soon receives a text from Aunt Fawn, who says the neighbors are performing magic. The old woman has even sent a video of Rattree chanting in the room, but the video is represented by Rattree standing directly next to her. A terrified Ning immediately asks the aunt if she's okay, but receives no response. Following this, Ning goes to check on her husband, but the couch is empty. She calls him, but hears his phone ringing from the Not long after, Quinn appears from outside, and explains that he had gone to discard a rat he had caught. Ning notices that he's carrying a red book given by Rattree and asks him. He casually responds that he has the book to catch a rat, and he will throw it away. But as Ning enters the room, she notices her husband putting the book in his bag and locking it. The next morning, Ning goes to see Rattree since she hasn't replied to his text. Ning enters the door, and instead, she sees a ghost by Nut. Nut claims that Aunt Fawn had gone to see her relatives outside the city. Hearing this, Ning states that the old woman did not have any relatives elsewhere, but Nutch says Aunt Fawn told her that. When Ning returns to her apartment, she finds her belongings scattered everywhere. Enraged at the sight, she goes to scold her. She finds a doll sitting on the chair instead. This is the same jury doll that Ning desired, and it knows she is in the Suddenly, he begins speaking. Ning hurriedly takes the doll from her mother, and reveals that it was a gift from her dad for her birthday. In the next scene, Ning awakens from her nightmare to discover the creepy doll staring at her. Startled, she puts it away, but then she hears the alarm from Quinn's phone outside. Ning realizes that it's 3:45 in the morning. She peeks into the living room, and notices Quinn getting ready to leave with the red book. Ning then grabs her phone and decides to follow him, but her charger falls to the ground, making a loud noise. Suddenly, she sees Quinn go back to sleep on the bed. A confused Ning then tries to remove the distracting hanging cloth, right when she notices the ghost in the mirror, but doesn't see anything in reality. Ning then looks in the mirror again, and still notices the ghost touching her. This sends her into a state of panic, and she eventually turns on the lights, after which the ghost disappears. The next morning, Ning notices some scratches on her daughter's chest that strangely resemble a triangle. She realizes that something very sinister is going on, so she stays awake until 3:45 a.m. and hears Quinn's alarm go off. Ning peeks into the hallway and sees her husband leaving the apartment with the red book. She proceeds to follow him, and eventually arrives at the rooftop. The woman then steps outside, where she sees a swarm of crows flying around. At the same time, she notices Quinn sitting on the rooftop and performing a cult ritual. Ning decides to record this on her phone, but a ghostly figure blocks her camera. She can't see the ghost in real, but when she uses the camera, it is right in front of her. A freaked out Ning attempts to touch the ghost. this moment, the crows suddenly begin attacking her, so she rushes back to the apartment and pretends to be asleep. Soon after, Quinn also arrives and calls her name, but when she doesn't reply, he leaves the bedroom. The next morning, while Quinn is in the bathroom, Ning goes to his bag and takes the red book. And as soon as he gets out, she hides it in her clothes and rushes to the bathroom. She then attempts to read the contents, but is surprised to discover that all the pages are blank. Just then, Quinn begins banging on the door, asking if she took something from his bag. Ning gets scared and opens a cabinet to hide the book. But to her shock, she finds the cabinet full of totems, drawings, and amulets used to perform cult rituals. In the afternoon, Ning arrives at her daughter's school to pick her up. Surprisingly, she notices Ratri within, who is reading the same red book. This enrages her, and she rushes toward them, but the two vanish in an instant. Her daughter shows up moments later, and when asked if Ratri was here, Ning denies it and claims she just came from a class. But at this moment, Ning notices a triangle-shaped mark on her daughter's neck and is horrified. Having had enough, Ning drives home with Ning and tells her to stay in the house. She then heads upstairs to gather some of their belongings. But when she returns to the vehicle, she is shocked to find Quinn inside. Ning says they're leaving him. She further explains that Ratri is attempting to harm their daughter, but Quinn finds it ridiculous. He calls Ratri a mother and says she would never do such a thing. Ning is repulsed by his behavior and proceeds to leave, but Quinn urges her to leave their daughter behind. This results in a physical altercation between the two, but the security guards eventually restrain Quinn, allowing Ning to drive off. Later, we see the mother and daughter in a hotel room. Ning is clearly upset for some reason. She says that she wants to go back to help her father. This makes Ning realize that the girl knows something and asks what she means, but Ning doesn't respond and simply cries. The next day, Ning and her cop friend Nut meet in the hotel lobby, and it turns out he has discovered some crucial information about the tenants. Nut reveals that their IDs have been forged, and Ratri's real name is Ning. There are no criminal charges against her, but it's still suspicious that she forged her identity to rent the house. Afterward, Ning returns to the hotel room and is shocked to find her daughter missing. She begins to panic, and a staff member informs her that Ning went with her father. Upon hearing this, Ning rushes back to the apartment right away, but finds no one there. She then notices blood dripping from her bed, and when she removes the mattress, she finds a blood-stained triangle. Horrified, Ning rushes to the house to find Ratri, but it turns out the place has already been vacated, leaving behind a lot of ritual items. She then calls Tom, who reveals that the tenants moved out yesterday, and her husband was aware of this. Ning explains everything to Tom in a panic and asks for his help. Shortly after, they head out to find him. Midway through the journey, Ning notices a triangle tattoo on Tom's hand, making her realize he's also a member of the cult. Filled with fear, she pretends that she needs to vomit and urges him to stop the car. Tom then approaches to check on her, and he uses this opportunity to rush inside and lock all the doors. But then, the cultist breaks the car window, and as she tries to run away, he knocks her out and takes out a suitcase. He then takes the heavy suitcase, which seems to have Ning inside, to an isolated lake house. Coincidentally, his alarm goes off, and it's 3:45 a.m. Following this, the scene flashes back to 11 years ago, where we see Quinn living with his eldest daughter, Ja, in the same house. It turns out her mother has already left, and it is only the two of them as a family. We also learn that the Guri doll with purple hair belongs to Ja, and is a gift from her father. The two are very happy with their lives, but one day, an unfortunate incident takes place. The father asks Ja to take a shower, claiming that he had just fixed the water heater. However, while Ja is showering, the water heater suddenly explodes, killing her tragically. In the aftermath of this incident, Quinn goes into a deep depression, and begins to treat the doll as if it were his daughter. He frequently speaks to it, and even prepares food for it. hoping to reconnect with his daughter. However, after so many efforts with the devil, Ratri informs him that it is time for Ja's spirit to move on, as she cannot remain here forever. Quinn desperately begins to cry, explaining that he still hasn't seen his daughter. He begs Ratri to bring her back, and she reveals that it is possible, but it would require the body of another girl of the same age. She suggests that Ing is the perfect candidate, and assures him that two spirits can coexist in the same body. After hearing that Ing won't be harmed in the process, Quinn finally agrees to the plan. Later, he gifts the Guri doll to Ing, and explains the situation to her. The girl in turn admits that she has been seeing Ja's spirit, but hasn't encountered her since they moved into the apartment. Nonetheless, she is on board with her dad's plan as she, too, wants her sister back. The next day, Ratri explains to Quinn that for the ritual to work, Ing needs to have 3 marks on her body. She reveals that she has already made 1 mark, and plans to make another still today. The 3rd mark, however, has to be made by Quinn himself, as he is the one who created her. Ratri then approaches Ing in spirit, and marks her neck with the triangle symbol. Later, when Ing is taken to the hotel by her mom, she calls Quinn, and gives him the address. Following this, the two head to the house to meet Ratri. And when Ning arrives looking for them, they all hide inside Aunt Thorn's house, and watch her leave. They then go to the main house, where they begin performing the cult ritual. As the ceremony starts, Quinn uses his blood to make a mark on Ing's forehead, preparing her to host another spirit inside her. Not long after, he notices the shadow of a little girl in the distance. Quinn believes it is Ja, and feels a surge of happiness. But as the shadow grows, Aunt Thorn suddenly opens the door and enters. Quinn is relieved to see her, but she unexpectedly stabs him, and her eyes turn completely white. He tries to run away, but she catches him, and stabs him one more time. A worried Ing rushes to her father, but Nutch arrives and pulls her away. Next, Ratri takes out a wooden doll. She introduces the doll as her youngest daughter, Prey, who died when she was 7. It turns out Ratri never intended to help Quinn. Instead, she has been searching for a suitable body for decades to revive her daughter. Through a series of flashbacks, we see how the cultists had been stalking Ing for months to use her. They then vandalized the apartment with the help of Tom, and made it look like the previous tenants did. On their first night in the big house, Ratri discovered Ja's spirit walking around the house. She also found the Guri doll in the attic, and eventually trapped Ja's spirit inside it. This is the reason Ing stopped seeing her sister after they moved out. Every night, the cult performed a ritual to reawaken the dormant spirit of Prey. In the present, we see Tom taking Ning to the lake house, when his alarm suddenly goes off. He notices that Ning's phone is also ringing inside the suitcase. Tom throws the phone away, but when he turns around, Ning is already gone. He then aggressively begins looking for her, while Ning hides under his car, and prepares to attack her. Back at the house, the ritual with Ing has started, and Quinn, on the verge of death, desperately tries to save his daughter. In another scene, Ning suddenly emerges with a pair of garden shears and attacks Tom. Quinn and Nutch also get into an intense fight, but she eventually overpowers him. After Quinn finally collapses, Nutch receives a text message from Tom, saying he wants to join them and ask for the location. But she is unaware that it is actually Ning who has killed Tom. Shortly after, Ning arrives at the house, and she grabs a hammer. She then creates a small explosion by putting spray paint in the microwave, and turning it on. Nutch rushes downstairs to put out the fire, allowing Ning to head upstairs. Upon arriving at the room, she notices her daughter unconscious in bed while Ratri is performing a ritual. Ning tries to strike the witch with her hammer, but an unseen force stops her. In the mirror, we see a group of ghosts grabbing her, and preventing her from harming Ratri. Ning then turns her attention to the wooden doll next to her daughter, and begins striking it repeatedly. Moments later, a rotting ghoul emerges from the doll and tries to strangle Ning. But she eventually uses the hammer to smash the main symbol on its forehead. This causes the doll to vanish, and Ning tries to escape the house with her daughter. However, she is confronted by Ratri and Nutch, who try to stop her. Ning begs them to let her child go, but Ratri responds it's not her child, as Ing is already dead. And then all of a sudden, the roof collapses. Later, everyone is trapped his blood to mark the doll and asked her to save her sister. In the present, Ning approaches Rattree and repeatedly spears the old woman until she dies. Shortly after, the police arrive and find Ning sobbing uncontrollably. The scene then shifts to some time later. When Ning visits her daughter in the hospital, she is shocked to hear the girl calling her auntie. The girl then cries and reveals that she is actually Jia, and she doesn't know what happened to Ning. Upon hearing this, Ning bursts into tears, and Jia apologizes for replacing her daughter. Despite this, Ning hugs her and asks her not to apologize, as she's still her daughter. The movie then ends with the mother and daughter heading to school on a bicycle, hoping for a fresh start. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.
Family drama, but it keeps getting more messy. We saved the craziest for last. My parents are uninvited from my wedding, and I couldn't be happier. Good riddance. I'm so thankful this damn nightmare is over. Ooh, tell us. My parents are finally uninvited from my wedding, along with anything else engagement related, and I am so relieved. From start to finish, my parents have tried doing everything in their power to make me as miserable as possible. The last semester has been tough on my fiance and me. Little did either of us know about the poop show my parents had in store for us. First, my mother was pissed that I wanted to have a wedding abroad because
The whole family should be there.
including people I haven't talked to in 15 years. Then my dad said his experience was tainted because my fiance had a conversation with me about being ready for marriage before asking for his blessing, as if this is the one getting married and not me. Then, of course, there was the engagement dinner. My God, don't get me started. All I did was ask my parents to combine our families for one holiday. One holiday. Apologize for missing my mother's extravagant birthday that I couldn't afford. That's a whole other story. Then, my fiance drove 8 hours, got a hotel room, planned months in advance, only for my father to refuse to give him his blessing. I mean, it kind of sounds to me like they're not supportive of this relationship, which begs the question, why do they even want to be at the wedding anyway? During the entire interaction, my father asked completely stupid and irrelevant questions that had nothing to do with our relationship. I won't go into the whole spiel, but I'll give you this. My father was so delusional that he had the gall to ask my fiance,
If my daughter asks you to lie to me, would you?
ooh, that sounds like a power play. My fiance responded,
Well, I'm going to stand by my wife, so yes, I would.
my father called him deceitful, started yelling, and threw a whole
She
tantrum in a
touches the
public
vortex,
restaurant.
and as Shiro follows suit, he suddenly finds himself in the
Okay. My partner and I have never been so infuriated in our lives. My father wasted our time and money over a blessing he was crying about in the first place. I would say that he wanted the blessing to kind of see if he could keep your fiance under his thumb. I don't really think that it was about doing the honorable thing. After this, I was done with the whole circus of a family. I completely cut off both of my parents because I refuse to have people in my life who can't get a grip. Thankfully, revenge is a dish best served cold. Lucky for me, narcissists hate being embarrassed, especially by elders in the family. My great aunt, who's my absolute heart, ripped them a new one. When my mother tried to cry to her about how disrespectful my fiance was, my aunt immediately wanted to know what question my dad asked. When my mom told her, she said,
What kind of a ass question is that? Of course that was going to be his answer. I don't know a single adult who would have answered differently.
my mom tried to double down and said my aunt wasn't being fair, and my aunt responded,
What do you mean? That is fair.
I've been putting off talking about this video because I wanted to wait to see what would happen here, and it appears as though it's finally wrapped up. This video that I got tagged in was posted about a month and a half ago. It shows a mother cat who's given birth to some kittens, and among those kittens was one that really stood out, one that had two faces. As you guys can imagine, two-faced cats are quite rare. It's not something that you see every day. This condition is known as diprosopis, also referred to informally as a Janus cat. Janus cats coming out in a litter. It's even more rare to see a fully grown Janus cat, and that's because their life expectancy is between 1 to 4 days. Most two-faced cats face one of two issues. Either they're unable to breathe properly, or they're not able to feed, so they die of starvation. The oldest Janus cat lived to be just over 15 years old. There are a few here and there that do make it past that 1 to 4 day time frame, and for those wondering, they do not have 2 brains, only 1. Also, based on context clues, this one, I believe, passed away.
So the crochet ginger went viral after making a life-size queso, which was her biggest project yet. She started with the head, which took 9 hours and ended up weighing 16 pounds. Then moved on to the body, which was painful to watch because after about 14 hours of work, she realized it wasn't tall enough, so she had to undo hours of progress and rebuild it. She finally finished the body after 25 hours, and it came in at 80 pounds. Then she added the arms, the facial hair, and the curly hair, which took the longest at around 42 hours. After that, she worked on the hoodie, headphones, and feet, which took 35 hours. She even made a giant inflatable rubber duck that took 28 hours. Then she wrapped everything up, sent it to queso, and the final result weighed a whopping 180 pounds, 7 feet tall and wide, and took her around 130 hours to complete. So the crochet ginger went viral after making a life-size queso, which was her biggest project yet. She started with the head, which took 9 hours and ended up weighing 16.
A couple in South Dakota woke up after a snowfall to find human footprints leading to the door of their house. No person in sight. On further investigation, the woman who lives at this house realized these footprints were pointing in opposite directions. Not 2 footprints of someone coming up to the house and then walking away. One foot pointing towards her house, while the other footprint points away from her house. Not creeped out enough? These aren't shoe prints. These are bare human footprints. He then decides to follow these weird footprints and see where they go. If you're thinking maybe don't do that, it's too late. She done did it. A lot of things going on as she's following these tracks. These footprints, again, one pointing one direction, the other foot pointing the opposite direction, will be spaced out pretty far. They'll be really close together and there's no Andrew. I swear one of those feet starts to look like a paw print, while the other one still looks like a bare footprint. Don't know what that is. For a little bit, it looks like it's just 1 foot. These people live out in the woods. As creepily as it all begins, she's literally following this to the very last footprint.
And this is where we end.
Also, very obviously like a flurry of like animal activity. You can see all these other little trails crisscrossing. None of those are footprints. This is the last footprint. At the very top of the screen, we're at the tree line. Looks like about like a 15-foot space between the last footprint, followed by a flurry of like animal tracks, and then the woods. And then she turns around one more time to then show you this whole track leading up to the door of her house. Maybe don't visit South Dakota. A couple in South Dakota woke up after a snowfall to find human footprints leading to the door of their house. No person in sight. On further investigation, the woman who lives in this house realized these footprints were pointing in opposite directions. Not 2 footprints of someone coming up to the house and then walking away. One foot pointing towards her house, while the other footprint points away from her house. Not creeped out enough? These aren't shoe prints. These are bare human footprints. He then decides to follow these weird footprints and see where they go. If you're thinking maybe don't do that, it's too late. She done did it. Things going on as she's following these tracks, recording the footprints as she goes. Sometimes there'll be like some deer tracks kind of intermingled along with these footprints. These footprints, again, one pointing one direction, the other foot pointing the opposite direction, will be spaced out pretty far. Together, and there's no animal tracks anywhere around. Call me crazy, but about halfway through, I swear one of those feet starts to look like a paw print, while the other one still looks like a bare footprint. Don't know what that is. For a little bit, it looks like it's just 1 foot in this.
Genuine question, why are we pretending like this story is real? It's been debunked like 20 times, and I've even done it myself once. This is another scary fact video that I got tagged in that's obviously fake. It shows an AI-generated image of a woman with this creepy-looking creature with the caption, "There were foster parents who stitched their kid."
I've always wanted to try super bright hair at least once.
If I wanted to get a copy of my own birth certificate, how would I do that?
When I was a young woman, I discovered my entire identity was a lie.
Mama, can we get it?
I longed for a close mother-daughter relationship, like the ones I saw in other families.
What's this?
Gonna put my DNA into these databases. If somebody in our family was also set in the same book, we could match. Just like that, I have a link to my biological family.
Excuse me. Detective Alice, what kind of information?
I found several people who share DNA with you. We found a daughter named Margaret.
Margaret? So where's Margaret? Do you know where my mother lives?
Everything you need is in this folder.
Hello? I have been looking for you ever since I was a little girl. You're Simone Harrison. You're my baby sister. We gotta meet. We got the face scar on.
If I wanted to get a copy of my own birth certificate, how?
This painting looks completely normal in regular light. A sunset, some mountains, a river, nothing special. But the second he turns on a UV light, the entire canvas comes alive. The colors explode.
I see the prettiest girl I've ever seen in my whole life. Where? To your left, but don't too fast.
When I was little, I had a best friend. Every year on my birthday, he would appear by my side to celebrate. He always found ways to make me laugh, but I was the only one who could see him. My mother said he was just my imaginary friend, but I always believed he was real. Today was my 10th birthday. I tried on a diamond ring. Mike told me he'd give it to me when I got married. He promised me he would keep his word. Then he turned to say goodbye.
Time for me to go. Go where? I'm going to have to leave at 5:15, the moment you were born. For how long? Forever.
Mike and I grew up together. This was the first time he said he was leaving me. I begged him to stay, but he said it was a rule he had to follow. I wanted him with me forever, so I left my childhood behind. I had to say goodbye to Michael. My heart shattered. After leaving, Michael told me no one would remember him. I promised I would never forget.
Every aspect of the whole world. I love you. I love you too.
The elevator doors opened, and Mike stepped in. I rushed over and knocked on the doors, but when they opened again, Mike was gone. I knew then he had really left. My mom gave me a necklace as a birthday gift. She said maybe when I grew up, Mike would return. I wasn't sure I'd ever see him again. After that, I spent many birthdays alone. I learned to live without Mike. Then, the day before my wedding, a stranger appeared out of nowhere. Over the next 2 days, I kept running into him in different places. He called my name, but I'd never met him before. Then he told me stories from my childhood. It felt strange and unsettling. I started to think he was following me, though he didn't seem to want to hurt me. I called my best friend for help, but the stranger was right behind me and heard everything. Why are you following me? Answer me right now or I will make... He didn't answer. Instead, he listed all my childhood favorites. Then he said he was Michael. He came back because he sensed I needed him, but I was an adult now and no longer believed in such tales.
I see the prettiest girl I've ever seen in my whole life. Where? To your left, but don't too fast.
When I was little, I had a best friend. Every year on my birthday, he would appear by my side to celebrate. He always found ways to make me laugh, but I was the only one who could see him. My mother said he was just my imaginary friend, but I always believed he was real. Today was my 10th birthday. I tried on a diamond ring. Mike told me he'd give it to me when I got married. He promised me he would keep his word. Then he turned to say goodbye.
Time for me to go. Go where? I'm going to have to leave at 5:15, the moment you were born. For how long? Forever.
Mike and I grew up together. This was the first time he said he was leaving me. I begged him to stay. He said it was a rule he had to follow. I wanted him with me forever, so I left my childhood behind.
some food. Oh my god. Are you streaming, honey, or no? Nice. Oh, nice. I'll tell you about everything later then. Oh, I can play League first then. I don't mind. Oh, okay. My god. There are none of my friends that piss me off more than Milk. And it's not even for a bad reason. It's more like I'm pissed off at him because of the things he says about himself. Like, dog, did I ever say I don't want to hang out with you ever? Well, you might as well have. You were busy this one time. Like, no shit, everyone's busy every now and again. That doesn't mean they don't want to hang out with you after. My god. It's like he does this thing where it's like every so often he'll message to hang out, I'll join, and then he'll be consistent with it for like a few weeks. Like, oh, 2 more days go by. Hey, you want to hang out? Yeah. And then one time, oh, I'm kind of busy right now, I can't. And then, okay, cool. Months and months go by, nothing. No responses, nothing. Just complete silence from him for months. And then all of a sudden, well, everybody hates hanging out with me. They dropped me for their own reasons. Like, no, that's not how things went. Shut up. My head hurts. I dealt with that. How long was I gone for? I was gone since 8 and I was gone for like 4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours of that. It was not fun. To get out, I just started talking about how all of the things in my life are going wrong. Like, I'm just told him like a lot of like, just, oh well, these are the negative things going on in my life. And then he didn't say anything about it. He just left. Because I was like, yeah, so, well, I was kind of a dick about it. At the end, I'm like, yeah, these are all the bad things going on in my life, but I still hang out with you. What's your excuse to go through all your shit and not want to talk to me? And he didn't say anything. He just left. All this shit I'm dealing with, I still want to have you as my friend. Why don't you? I feel bad, like, I just showed him what he does and he didn't like it. Okay, sorry. Oh fuck, sorry. So distracted. Can't you pause the game? Why couldn't you just pause it and then go use the bathroom then? Okay, fair enough. I get it. Oh no, you're good, honey. I get it. I do the same thing. Like, I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing because then I'll lose the rhythm I have. I get it. You're good. Don't worry. I don't even know what I want to eat yet. I'll find something. Ding. What? Like, you can hire a hitman, isekai, or... Okay. Okay. Rare drop. Like once, maybe that's like the indicator for like a rare drop, like the car action. What's with the intense music for a second? Ooh. She is. Damn. Nice. Yep. I knew it. Nice. Mailbox.
Bonk.
I'm sorry, did it just say bonk? Bonk. That is a really fancy looking table. True. Oh, that is cool. Oh, I love that. Why is he dabbing? Why does he dress like Attack on Titan characters? Looks like a grown-up Caillou that had a bad life. This is cool. Oops. That's cool. The moving stuff stays near you guys. Damn, she's cute. Your story's coming together really nicely.